You asked me to send you the link. I'm sorry, I didn't forward I sent it. I went in and sent it. That one didn't go to that government thing. It was just straight. It just went straight to them.
So, are we picking that man, what they return tomorrow, no? 14th.
I'd like to call us to order this afternoon. We have a quorum I can see. Entertain an approval of the revised agenda.
Madam President, I move that we adopt the revised agenda as printed. Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Opposed? All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, we're going, I don't know where we're going. This is new for me. We're going into executive session for a few minutes.
Madam President, for how long?
How long?
Oh,
Can we have a
I
motion?
move that we go into executive session.
All in favor? Opposed? How long?
About 15 minutes, maybe 20.
15 minutes. We'll be back.
That's what I said, but you know, always.
It's in 20 minutes, it's unless it's, yeah. Ready? We're gonna go to, 2 o'clock.
Do we need to take anything, Madam President?
No.
No, we don't need to talk anything.
Martha, live stream. Sir? Live streaming. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You doing all right, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good. How
You
about you?
should go home after this meeting, right?
We'll see.
Okay.
I'm fine, how about you? Good to see you. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
How you doing? Good, how you doing? I'm doing good.
Yes. Right. Towards the STEM related grant? Okay, okay. Yeah, I know we're talking about Mary, so, okay. Okay.
Familiar with it, have worked with it.
Okay, okay, okay.
So the next step was to circle back and say, okay, you know, where are we?
Mhm. Okay.
But his thing is,
Okay, 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 right, okay. yes, yes.
I know you guys are still having a meeting the 21st, right? Okay. No, with what? Okay. I know that, yeah,
Right, right. Okay,
meeting
okay.
night around the same time on charter, but she said she might change it.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Okay.
Right,
I
right.
can check her, but she said she did.
Right, that's right, that's okay, right, right. Okay. Right. Okay, okay, right, right, okay. Oh, okay, wow, I didn't know that, okay, okay. Okay, right, right. Okay. Oh, did you? Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Right, right, right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that sounds good. Okay. Sure. Okay. Just let me know what Dr. Moore is scheduled. Okay. I would love to sit down. Okay. 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 Right. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Right, okay, okay, okay. Right, right, okay. Okay, good, I don't need to read, okay, okay, okay. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, okay, sounds good, okay. Well, that's great, if people want to jump in, you take advantage of those opportunities, build these relationships.
Yeah, because I think he has them in about 6 or 7 systems.
How did the
Right, right.
And so, but yeah, the day that the weather got bad was the day we were scheduled to meet the guy from the job.
Right.
And so they actually, but they still back, it was Walker Bell, and Teresa, I was in that school, they arranged for the next day.
Right.
So they were actually.
Oh.
Was it the Facebook post getting?
Right, okay, now I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what I was.
Yeah, you can find. I mean, that's your call. That's what he's doing.
Okay, okay.
He wants to ask you, that'll be on the record.
Right, okay, okay,
And again.
What I noticed that, because Dr. Thomas is sure she put it.
Yeah.
And they don't speak English, and so I was wondering, and so I think she's.
Well, it sounds good.
Yeah, she.
Absolutely.
Right?
Where else would you speak? I mean, like the Nehemiah right there.
talked about it, but I was very forthright.
Okay, well, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah, on the, you know, ability to be able.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, because initially, yeah, he was initially talking about dollar for dollar, sticking out, yeah, and I just, yeah, that's what I said, it came from.
Okay, okay, well, I appreciate it, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Linda, how are you? I'm alive, that's half the battle.
I'm alive and free. That's all I can tell you. Don't ask my name. Those to be waiting. When I tell you, I spent 20 minutes on the car trying to find the keys, but we didn't find them. I had pulled off into the parking lot, taken a phone call. Took the phone and asked me if my keys out and come down one time, taking us to the dealer.
Yeah.
Put them down. Got out of the car first, because I had a file in the back of the car, and I carried my office with me. I literally bad, and now, you know, it's like, hold on, it's okay, yeah. So I pushed my car on the radio. Yeah, I fall out, then I realized I'm probably broke, so I'm
Where is over?
small.
Where's home? Iowa. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. I mean, how do you know?
I was there for a conference actually this summer. And we Des Moines. It was a chamber.
Yeah, no, it did. Then,
And you all
it's interesting, you all rescheduled, because it seemed the way that.
or you, is Des Moines or?
No, yeah.
Okay, okay. But I was really surprised, somewhat surprised about the first initiatives that you all have downtown. But I generally, I was there, I think I got
Wow.
and I was like,
Hello, hello, how you doing?
you know, it didn't
Hey, Bernard.
it's not a whole
I hadn't seen you in a couple of days. Oh, yeah, I did see your car. Right, I saw your car
So
yesterday.
I had to go to Iowa City, so that was like very That before like, more like west, yeah, no,
Yeah, and so, yeah, I was out there by myself, playing, and then, you know, 2 weeks later, I had to get home, and I was like, oh, Yuki, yeah, makes you think, yeah. Yeah.
that's what I was saying, because you really. I just like, I don't know, I guess it's not any worse, but the fact that her, center over here,
Yeah. Well, you just never know, I mean, anywhere. But yeah, I go out by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily because I go by myself.
Yeah.
And I was quite by myself. You know, and I and I had my club out, you know, and I just stood and kind of waited on my eyeball, and I said, hey, you know, y'all be careful out there, get hit by the ball. And then
I will hit you with the ball.
But then called up and said, yeah, I'm walk down here. It was in the middle of the course, it's not like first hole. Yeah, called and said, look, y'all got it. Yeah, fellas, and then the ball hit you. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I lost my favorite going back. That was I had ended up making a bracelet out of the one that left. Because I went to, they have a Saturday market. Fresh farmer's market or whatever, but I mean, there's all sorts of things. And went there first and was later on, then came back and showered. like, so I don't know whether it's a hotel down at the market outside, but I really liked it, obviously. That one was the changing up one. England. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So what's happening else? What's going on in the city?
So we got a story coming out tomorrow. The Salvation Army just did the coolest thing I'm seeing all the time. The shelter, they had behind it this building that was built in the 70s that was supposed to be their first store, and they never did anything with it. And it's just been like gathering crap for decades. And so they started there 8 months ago. He said he's the first person I tried to go in there in years, and he had volunteers who wrote for Maxwell, and the people at the shelter cleaned it all out, went around the businesses, got donations of paint, painted the whole thing. He started furniture, trash piles, fixing it up, brought a marching tour, brought pictures from his house on the walls, and in the front room, he's doing a learning center, and so he got computers donated, and he's working on like ASU, and Troy, and what's it called, CAPS, and they're gonna come in and do like life skills training, job training. The room across the hall will be counseling, and so CAPS has agreed to fund a peer counselor for sessions. You know, they give out bags of food on Mondays and other days. Decided to turn the back room into a marketplace. It's like, it doesn't make sense for us to give people food. We don't know their health problems, so they can just come in and fill up their own food. That's why it's done it all. Nobody does.
Wow. That's a big innovation.
Yeah.
That's leverage. Yeah, leverage. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, he's doing it all. And I met him like 2 weeks after I started, because we started moving here at the same time.
Did you move from Iowa here?
Yeah. Well, I moved to Texas. I worked there for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
But he, I just, even then, I was like, you gotta be able to, like, keep this momentum up, and he's like, I mean, not character. And today he was like more upbeat, but he's like, my wife's working at it. And I'm like, yeah, because you're talking about Saturday night being here, scrubbing the floors with the guys and stuff, like, he's going all in for his vision.
So is that shelter?
Reality. So yeah, she's trying to do something similar where she. I mean, it's just, it was great. He told me he was thinking about doing the center, and 2 weeks later, I'm like, I want to learn more about what you do. It's like, come over, and it's this whole building that like almost done.
Wow. That's serious. What is it? Or some of the residents that stay there, are they engaged?
Yeah, that's what he said, like Saturday nights, they're all in there together, like scrubbing the floor.
Yeah.
And then he's putting a wellness center in one of the rooms too, where he'll have like a treadmill and garden bars. He said that they take like a more holistic approach to, you know, helping them have healthy things to do with their time.
Right.
So that's what I got, that's what I got.
Is anybody covering parent night?
Well, I wanted to go. This is the first time I heard about it, but I called QB and this is every Tuesday, or the first, one Tuesday.
No, over parent night over at Impact.
Oh, no, I didn't know anything about that. There was 1 year after parent night.
Really? Okay.
Better. Well, then,
This is, well, this is the first time I've known them to do it. I think they do it at the beginning of the year. but they are now getting ready to, for applications, to take applications for the students, recruiting people in the spring. And again, it's one of those connections with business and industry preparing students to be prepared to go to work. The military does a lot of those, have the same needs, especially when you start talking about National Guard.
No, unfortunately, I'm trying to tap into it a little more, but like our non-traditional schools, like, are like a different system. I don't see anything like it.
Why?
I don't know, it's just kind of how it was handed off to me and how I'm like
So who
trying
does?
to, no one is the thing.
It was on the agenda, was it Friday, it was special call meeting. Justin was
Wait on you. Like when he sent out an email, yeah, no, it's totally an issue when you put it in more, but it's kind of like, I guess somebody
and at least talk with her about the event for tonight. There needs to be an increased awareness in the community about what's going on and the opportunities there, because they don't prepare. Those students can come out of that school with credentials ready to go. I'm a BA, GH. I have maybe I don't know. Chief Tom, I believe that maybe do it, because I think the male receiving which is understandable about talking to people.
Yeah,
She's the principal and she's but in all fairness, I mean, it's not, you know, well, I have her number, but I just don't want to.
Yeah, put her where she's.
To put her, yeah, outside of the. Yeah, because I was over there yesterday with the Region 5 person, and they said that, in fact, I'm bored now. They say well, will have an impact.
Hey, how you doing, Custer?
Hey, Treasurer, you spent around $18 million there.
Huh?
You spent around $18 million there.
$18 million.
Every day,
No, but I mean, again, the application.
Well, I was saying, no, they do the so you can go in our reserve.
basically have.
Thinking that I was
We're not selling no more students. That's what y'all want to do.
Yes, and we
They have HVAC.
All combination of
It's expensive. We ain't got enough money. So now they just sell our school, they make it fit.
well.
Each class, they have that welding, whatever it is. And it's effort in that too. Management, they have the level outside of the door type thing.
So one year, I don't say.
It's a whole lot of things. They got too many children over there, and they don't say.
They have a
and based on states, one teacher for every, let's say,
we had the next meeting.
they have the funding for those 18 teachers. And that's the one funding for one grade to 18. That's it.
The last time.
So my question
well, I'm not sure she got somebody.
Oh, you don't let they ain't changed nobody 18
You gotta have an idea, you have choices. But every 8 weeks, you assess it. And then you have the idea where your interest is and where your strengths are.
sixth grade.
Some kids do it, so one of the infections out there, they have fire science, fire law.
all of them.
So the kid gets
How much damn you got down here?
So it's really good. This time around, I don't have a lot.
So they, said, okay, well, wait, look, what's the second interest rate?
We got everything from them. We got one for the mayor,
Even when I got
the emblem or whatever it is. Oh, really? Sorry.
we really
Well, what the so does it mean that? How you doing? Yeah, one guy. What he said.
And I hold the big I'm trying to
How you doing, sir?
How you doing, sir?
What's up, man? What's up? You all right? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why they got
but it's good stuff. We did a manufacturing. And they come up to the show, they're busted. Came back into show the students the system.
That's why I said this semester.
Yeah. Did you all about something about, the parents' night at, Impact?
In my mind, even like my cousin.
Parents night at Impact.
See, I saw the one at Lanier, but not Impact.
You're right. Right. Right.
I think but my birthday, my third, yes, we just be the same way.
Really?
We're currently trying to.
Really? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the process is in place if I were to say, hey, we're sure we're going
We
to
would,
I don't know, but I
and I think we need that. We should wait.
that's her, it's 105.
Right. Yeah.
You could let her, and that's 105. She died of 108.
Some of that public farm, yeah.
But we can't get around.
No, don't let you see your role model. They don't have to write you up. That's a great attorney. Yes, it is.
Right, that's true, that's true.
It's just challenge. I'm gonna try not to fuss. I gave mail last night. Well, my thing is, they don't own, well, no, you guys work. They want us to go get a tax.
Right.
They literally the same thing.
Right.
I do last year.
They buy these shoes from the same store. I went up there and shop at the store.
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it. You can't pull it here. They will run.
All that going on. All that going on. See that? And insole.
I'm not gonna give you a shout.
See, there you go. 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 Stop it.
I'm on march. I'm going to see where I'm
Stop.
when it came to it.
Stop.
You knew. You knew where you're going to do first.
No. So many things going on. They went from one
Oh, y'all not gonna do that this year. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We gonna close this way.
No, they can't.
And then after that,
Because y'all said 2 years.
I've been saying
That'd be so hard.
I've really been
In case you go charge.
Y'all, it ain't Charlie, home, if you imagine apple to apple, I'll go with you. And I can still pass it. 75 in September. You ought to get it.
Well, the thing about here, because small business is possible. Are they going to be able to work over there?
Well, I wouldn't work over there.
Yeah, let me tell you something.
That's no man, Antonio Brown, because we found him came out of the crappy trade. Came out of the day.
That's what I'm saying. I talked to Ms. about the South Line. Now the other issue takes a little bit longer, just trying to figure out. Work it all out. Okay. Yeah. But that's not a problem. So I haven't got, but yeah, but I,
Nice to meet you too. Are you Montgomery County? Mr. Edwards. Yes. Oh, very nice to be doing the campaign. Yeah. I had somebody to say good evening. You ain't gonna plus somebody. Let us see the same thing you see last night. I argue.
So this year, leadership
down payment.
Remember Taliban? Oh, us? No, you're not. No, you're not. We both got birthdays coming up.
All within the same. What I have to catch. I didn't
well, I do is your opinion on me allows me to make more so I can't wait to share. Whether it be today or tomorrow.
What's the next time y'all meet?
I know they you know, where it's like
Talk about bullying.
Can I get a motion that we return from our executive session?
I make a motion that we return from executive session.
Second. Okay, we are back in session. There was no action taken on our executive session. And we're gonna resume our, agenda items. We have Dr. Williamson, first up to talk about section 6 of the policies.
Good evening. Good evening. We're gonna start with section 6, section 6.1.1. And on that section, we talk about our attendance policy and the compulsory age of attendance for students, reminding parents of the cutoff dates for enrollment with kindergarten as well as first grade, and then also reminding parents of the policies that we have within the district when children enter from out of state and have already participated in kindergarten and or first grade. Were there any questions from 6.1.1?
I have the question about the cutoff date for kindergarten is September 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
But the cutoff date for first grade is December 31st.
That is correct. That was a legislative action. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions for 6.1.1?
And so it also changed from 7 being compulsory age to 6.
Yes, ma'am. Section 6.1.2, admission to our schools. In this section, we talk about that a child that is enrolled in Montgomery Public Schools must be enrolled within the county and not living within a principality that is incorporated into another school district. Any questions about that section at the bottom of page 1? Okay. At the top of page 2, we begin with letter B, admission policy for homeless, migratory, immigrant, and limited English proficient students, as well as children in foster care. So this covers that as a district, we will not have any barriers for preventing any of this protected class of children from entering into our district. Any questions? Section C reminds us more specifically of the processes that we use when a family reports to us that they are within homeless status. It also goes into the process that we have as a district if any question is made about where families are placed, and that we do have a resolution and a process with our homeless coordinator. Any questions? Top of page 3. Section D reminds us about our responsibility for children that are within foster care. And for these children, we can decide where that child is attending school, whether it is in the child's best interest to remain in the school that they were in or to move to a different school. So that's is summarized there. Questions? Section E talks about our practices when students come to us that have been expelled or suspended from other school districts and or private schools. And that as a practice, Montgomery Public Schools will honor the suspension that has, or expulsion that has been rendered where the child is coming from. And if they transition into our district, that at best that placement could be in the alternative school. Section F, required documentation, reminds everyone of what is needed when a child is coming to enroll in Montgomery Public Schools. We cannot require birth certificates, but we can request, and so we do as a district. But of course, as we talked about in that previous section with our protected classes, if they do not have a birth certificate, there are other means that we can use to verify age and placement within the district. And there's also discretion allowed for the superintendent. Questions? Section G reminds us that students will be placed according to our board policy. So children coming in, we place according to age and or placement testing, whichever one is appropriate. Top of page 4. Attendance zone 6.1.3. Our attendance zone and class assignments. As a district, our zones are dictated by where families live, and it is dictated by the legal guardian and or parent's address. We do have very limited mobility within our district as far as children being able to transfer. It's under very specific circumstances under which we allow that. And class assignments within schools are at the discretion of the principal.
I did have one question. I know, and it's about the AAA.
Okay.
I know that deals with, the school choice.
Okay.
I know we give, choices based on proximity. What would be the closest school? Am I correct?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Mitchell. That actually is Mr. Mitchell's.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. He can answer, Mr. Mitchell, you want to answer?
Proximity, and we're deciding next week, we're gonna set it on the 20th to see exactly the schools. They would have probably between 2 to 4 choices. So we will send it out and share that.
Okay. Section 6.1.4, absences and excuses, reminds all of us about our policy around children being absent from school, and that those absences are either excused or unexcused, and parents have to submit in writing when they are to be excused. In that next section, 6.1.5, we review the policy around when children are defined as truant, and that we have to follow the law and will get law enforcement involved at the point that children become truant within our district. Transfers and withdrawals, 6.2. Transfers, this section talks about that when we have a parent within our district that works within our district that wants their child to attend a school where they are teaching, that is an option. We do have an employee petition process that we collect in the summer so that we can account for movement of students. But this also makes sure that we cover the fact that children are not allowed to enroll in any of the schools where we take applications for all other students.
Okay, Dr. Williamson.
Yes, ma'am.
What about it? I've been asked this several times and I really don't have an answer for them. I refer them to your office or to Ms. Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
But if a teacher is teaching at the magnet school and she wants her 5 children to be at the magnet school where she is, how do you all handle that?
It's in that sentence where it says, third sentence down, excluding schools that enroll through an application process. So a teacher who is working in a magnet school is not allowed to enroll her children there. They have to go through the same application process as any other person within the district.
And is that checked sometimes? Or are you called upon to check that sometimes?
Through Sophia's office, yes ma'am, we do verify. We do not, all employee petitions come through our office and we don't sign off for any child to be transferred into a magnet school.
I have one question about the next sentence where may permit transfers between schools within, school systems for good cause. What kind of cause would we have to transfer?
That covers us for, safety issues or when there are some medical issues. For instance, there are times when a child with a disability needs to be in a school that is more accessible. We'll make a transfer in that situation. You're welcome.
What about parents who may drive into our district, they live in one county, but want to bring their children here? Is that something that we will allow?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I asked because I have been asking.
No, ma'am. Page 5, section 6.2.2, withdrawals, no child that is within compulsory age is allowed to withdraw from a Montgomery Public School without us being able to verify where that child is going. You do see that it has been added that when we have a child that has missed 15 consecutive days, that through a process of certified notices, visiting that house, if we are not able to locate that family, we are now able to remove that child from our roster. So that will help us with chronic absenteeism. Section 6.3 begins with our student fees, fines, and charges, and that we will make every effort to keep all of those reasonable, and that concessions will be made when students need assistance with any of those fines and fees, and that they will remain equal across the district. Any questions? I'm going to take a seat and pass the baton to Dr. Fenderson, who's going to come and talk to you about the athletic pieces.
Good afternoon. I will cover section 6.4 through 6.9. Beginning with concussions. Here in the district with concussions, every coach, volunteer and paid, has to go through an online course on concussions. Every player has to sign a form along with their parents that they are familiar with all our concussion protocols. Every athletic event that we have on our campuses, middle school and high school, we have a certified athletic trainer at all of our events. All the forms, once the parents and the child sign the form, all of these forms are kept in the principal's office. So when the Alabama High School Association comes to and does their audit, they will see all of these forms and see that we have all of these forms in the office. 6.5, extracurricular activities. Every student is offered the opportunity to participate, but with any type of athletic event, every student has to be eligible. Again, this is 6.51 and 6.52. Every student has to be eligible. If you look at 6.52 athletics eligibility and 6.53, in grades 10 through 12, every student has to pass 6 units in order to be eligible in grades 10 through 12. And that calendar year, they can start the year off eligible, and they are eligible for the entire year. If a student is not eligible the first semester, they can gain eligibility by taking evening courses and again become eligible that second semester. So for example, if James starts school at Lanier, for example, he's not able to play football that first semester, he can take evening courses, become eligible for the second semester, and he's eligible for that entire second semester.
In addition to the 6 units, they have to make at least 7.
7 habits, yes. And again, that's 10 through 12. With grades 8 through 9, they have to pass 5 courses, and again, also they have to have that 7 habits.
Is credit recovery included in that?
Yes. And they only take 2 courses. Same thing with summer school. So if you fail more than 3 courses, you can only take 2 courses. So if you fail 3 and you only take 2, you will not be eligible for that.
So credit recovery, you can only take 2 courses.
Okay. 7th grade, first time 7th graders are automatically eligible. So if you have a 6th grader he may be 13 or 14, his first time entering the 7th grade, he is eligible to play.
Even if he's over age?
Yes. Because he's a first time 7th grade. Any first time 7th grade, he's 14. But once he enters the 7th grade, he's automatically eligible. On 6.53, again, they can only take one PE course during the year. Some students may take more than one PE course, but they don't need that to be eligible, so they're able to take more than one PE course. Off-campus activities, 6.6. Right now, we're getting ready to use a program called Trip Direct. We're getting away from the paper pencil, so that way we can have a better way of tracking all of our buses and how things are done. For example, if a coach at Park Crossing High School wants to get a bus, he goes on Trip Direct, he fills that form out, it goes automatically to the nurse signs off on it, it goes to the principal, she signs off on it. It comes to me, I look at it and sign off on it, then it goes to the transportation director. That way we have everything online in the computer, and we don't have to look for paper. So next year, every school will be doing Trip Direct. I'm going to combine 6.8 and 6.9. It talks about equal educational opportunities in Title IX. Every educational institution that receives title funds has to abide by the Title IX rules. I like to give an example. You know, if we have 10 male sports at one high school and 5 female, you know, that goes against Title IX. If we have an indoor bagging facility and the males are only using it and the females can't use it, that goes against Title IX. That's when it begins, where I have a lot of phone calls from parents talking about how female athletes are not having the same opportunity as the male athletes are having. So when we have that, that's when we get involved with Title IX.
It says here that the superintendent is authorized and directed to designate a Title IX coordinator.
Yes.
Okay, at this point, do we have a Title IX coordinator?
That's me.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So we try to follow all the guidelines as it relates to Title IX. You know, we look at all of our sports and kind of make sure everything is balanced out. You know, if we have, for example, soccer at a school, you know, we don't have soccer for the females, they are able to participate with the males. Any questions for me?
Well, I'm always glad about Title IX. I used to coach, and the principal said, well, you all don't bring in the kind of money that the football team, but we still part of the school. So when they started Title IX, I was very excited.
And just to kind of add about athletics, I told the cabinet members, this past Wednesday we had 50 student athletes sign scholarships to different universities all over the state. Within the last 4 years, we've had 269 student athletes sign scholarships at our traditional schools. And at our magnet schools, we've had another 40. So we've had over 300 athletes sign scholarships in the last 4 years. Well, I need to head out now. We have our sub-regional basketball going on right now. Lanier's playing tonight. Brewtech is playing tonight. Lamp is on the road. Carver's on the road. And Lee plays Thursday at the Coliseum.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
All right. Continuing on, we're in section 6.10. Voluntary religious expression. It speaks to that students have the opportunity to, and the freedom of expression for their religious beliefs, that they will not be penalized for that. It can be incorporated into their work, but their work will be graded on academic standards, not on any of the religious standards. That students also have the right to gather for religious beliefs as long as they are the ones who are coordinating it. Any questions?
I know there are a couple of schools now that have it, they call it some kind of club or
So it's like a Southern Christian Association, something like that in school.
They used to call it that back in the day.
In section 6.11, that as a district, we will not tolerate any student sexual harassment, that we have processes in place for protecting students, as well as for a student and or parent or any responsible adult to make the necessary claims so that it can be fully investigated, and that we will exercise the full authority that we have within the district and utilize local authorities, MPD, to prosecute as necessary.
Dr. Williamson, I did have a question on that.
Okay.
Because I didn't see it in here, and maybe I over read it or something, but it didn't seem like the procedure, the policy had where it eventually made it to law enforcement. And this is just within the school, right? This is not a child that comes and says, you know, this happened over the weekend at my uncle's house or something.
Well, but remember that as education agents, we're mandatory reporters.
Right.
So even if a child comes in and reports that, we immediately contact the HR and then they continue that process.
I knew it on that side, but I mean, within, if it's like a coach or a teacher or something like that, is that what this is addressing, or all types?
Any type.
Okay.
We are mandatory reporters, yes ma'am. Any type. And we have a process where that investigation begins within the district, and depending on that investigation, we have to contact law enforcement, yes ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. 6.12, protection of pupil rights and amendments that parents can have the right to get consent for, and you need to flip over to the next page for this to make sense. So when any type of survey or any type of information is being presented or collected from students that falls into one of these areas that can be considered sensitive areas, that we obtain parental consent before we move forward with that. The following section talks about that as we provide them information about any of those sensitive areas, that we also provide some type of form that allows them to opt out if they do not want their child to participate in any of those sensitive activities. And section 6.12.3 goes into more detail about if you are presenting, especially like a curriculum pertaining to any of these sensitive areas, that parents have the right to request to review that curriculum to help them with their decision making. In section 6.13, student records, that we will maintain student records according to the law within our district, and that we will make sure not to share student information. FERPA applies for us with everything that happens with educational records, so that we will abide by federal law for all student records. Section 6.14, our student health services, that as a district, we provide limited health services, non-invasive services. If there is an emergency, we will contact the necessary personnel or reach out to the necessary resource. So for instance, if we have an emergency in a school and we cannot reach mom, we will call 911 so that the child receives the necessary medical attention. So that is what we discussed in that section.
And I have another question. I
Okay.
promise that this will be my last one, maybe. I'm the question asker. Okay, if an ambulance is called, is there a policy that dictates, you know, after you call the parents and the child needs to get to the hospital, if someone rides with the child to the hospital? Is there?
Yes. Well, within our district, yes ma'am, we can't release a child without being supervised. If we're not releasing that child to the parent or guardian, and we have to send that child off by emergency care, then someone from that district has to accompany the child until we're able to place that child in the hands of the child's parent.
Okay, 30 seconds or less. My 6-year-old who's in kindergarten in Chelsea fell off the monkey bars last Wednesday and rode from Chelsea to downtown Birmingham by himself in an ambulance.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And so it really, you know, I thought, well, I hope that we have something better. But they did have it in place. It was a person made the decision not to go with him or to follow the ambulance. So anyway,
So no ma'am, that should not happen in MPS. No ma'am.
I didn't think so.
No ma'am. On the next page, student conduct 6.15. This section reminds everyone that we do have a student conduct manual, that it addresses all of our disciplinary infractions and consequences that go along with those within our district, and that we will apply those and follow those as it is written. That we will present it to the board. We actually had our first meeting today we got canceled because of the snow day, so it got pushed back just a little bit, the snow day that didn't produce any snow. But we have had our first of 3 meetings, and so later on in the spring, before we exit the school year, you will see our request for updating the student conduct manual. Section 6.16, student searches. Student searches, that whole entire section was on board property, personal property, personal searches. First of all, that when you're on MPS property, if there is any concern that the law is being broken or you have anything in your possession that is illegal, searches can be conducted and will be conducted by the appropriate personnel. And each of those sections outline that. Questions? Okay. Section 6.17, corporal punishment is short and sweet. We don't do it. There's no corporal punishment in MPS. Section 6.18, physical restraint. That we do have an edit. I see that we did not catch the coding change here in this paragraph, but that we will follow state mandates as far as how we restrain students. And that is all, those procedures are also published in our student conduct manual. Student suspensions, including students with disabilities, is completely outlined in our student conduct manual. And from day 1 of the process, for what parents need to do, what they need to receive from the school, all the way through the appeal process is outlined. The expulsion process is the same, follows the same mechanism. It is published in our student conduct manual. The appeal process is published within our student conduct manual, and parents are informed of what they need to do if they find themselves facing an expulsion situation with their child.
Expulsion for special ed students, how do you handle that?
Both of them are outlined in the student code manual. So with a special ed student, the first thing we have to do is make sure that we have followed that IEP, that we have ensured that it's not a manifestation of the disability. So there's some additional protections that are in place for students with disabilities that we outline to make sure that parents know the entire process.
And when we as board members, I don't know if all have had that problem, that's what you hear a lot about, the expulsion, suspension, days off for special needs students.
And one thing to remember, if I'm correct, is that a special needs student can be expelled for anything else that another student would be expelled for, except you have to go through some special steps to get to that point.
And even when we have to expel a student with disabilities, that is not removing them from their services. So they're expelled to certain settings outside of the district, but they are still eligible to receive IDEA services.
Can you expound upon that?
So when we've had to expel, typically a student with disabilities is expelled on a homebound situation so that they receive their services off-site. But for all other purposes, they follow the same rules as any other expulsion within the district.
Because you always hear people say, well, you know, you can't expel, and parents need to understand that, and other students as well, because you will provide educational services for that child.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
he or she can be suspended like anybody else, and they say, you know, well, here's his 10 days, 15 days, whatever. So
Yes,
sometimes we just need to point those things out to parents as well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They are a protected class, but it's not to the point that it puts anyone else in harm's way. Yes, ma'am. 6.21, electronic communication devices. We do allow students to have their devices when they're on campus. We, as a district, are not responsible for their devices, and the use of those devices when they're on campus is at the discretion of the principal and teacher. So their devices should be put up unless their principal or teacher has dedicated the time when they can use their devices, or it be used for instructional purposes. 6.22, driver's license. That whole section talks about that students who are at the age of 19 or under should not have a driver's license if they are not enrolled in school. And there is a process through Ms. Johnson's office where we can report when we have students that are not compliant.
That's done through the Department of Transportation or?
It is. It's a partnership with the department.
So it is a partnership?
Yes, ma'am, it is. 6.23, student parking privileges. Of course, you know, this applies to our high schools, and it talks about that we expect students to follow the law. They cannot have any illegal substances within their cars, that each principal is allowed to make additional rules to help ensure the safety on their campus, up to and including charging fees, parking decals, so that students' cars are readily identified when they're on campus. Section 6.24, student competitive extracurricular, I can't even get that, extracurricular activity, substance abuse policy, that any student who is representing MPS participating in anything on behalf of MPS, we've had that same rule, a zero tolerance policy as far as substance abuse. 6.25, harassment, violence, threats of violence, suicide awareness, and prevention. This entire section that also flows over to the next page talks about, number one, that we have a procedure when a student feels threatened or harassed for that to be reported to a responsible person within the school or anyone within the district. First, for a student, we really prefer that it starts with that principal, that the principal will conduct an investigation, that we do give follow-up to families when that investigation is conducted, and that we, when needed, will share that information forward with law enforcement depending on the infraction that has been found.
That includes bullying as well?
Yes, ma'am. This is about the bullying and harassment versus the sexual harassment that was earlier. Yes, ma'am. It also talks about our required training that we do with all personnel annually. Jason Slack may have heard that. We are required annually to go through that so that we, as educators, can recognize some of the symptoms when a child might be at risk for suicide, and to help to stand in the gap for children so that children remain safe.
And that is the one question, and that's when, after we go through, on our end, that's when we refer over to, if it's a mental health issue or concern, then we put it into those hands in regard, and when it comes to the harassment. If, you know what I'm saying, if we find that it's something a little bit, like they're doing it out of, how can I word this? If they're doing it and it's a result of a mental illness, do we have a process after we go through the process, you know?
The bullying?
Yes, with the harassment, the violence, and the threats. And the reason I'm asking, let me just clarify this, is because we've heard a lot about MPS not doing anything to handle bullying. You clearly defined that. And I guess what I'm trying to say, just to kind of give a little bit more information so that people know that not only are we doing our part on our end, but we have other agencies, that's the word I'm thinking of, other agencies that work with us if we find that it is something more severe outside of the help of the counselors and the principal, our folks on the inside.
Yes, ma'am. When we have a partnership with the DA's office, helping Montgomery Families Initiative, the DA office, launched his own bullying support last year. So he's been very good with supporting us when it has been found that a child really is aggressive and needs something beyond what we provide, that law enforcement needs to be involved. We also work with some of the agencies around town to get children connected to mental health counseling, to try to help families get to the root of the problem so that the child, there are times when children have gone through trauma that manifests itself in them bullying others, so we do everything we can to get them connected to the right support.
So they can take that all the way through. I was right there and I was like, I cannot get my counseling up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Williamson.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at item F. We inform students of available community suicide prevention services. Is that only after we know there's a problem, or do we have some kind of ongoing awareness so that students are always aware that there is some help available for them?
We have increased that piece, so we have ongoing support from our district social workers, our guidance counselors, incorporate curriculum into the schools. We also have some resource partners who have been coming in. This year, Family Sunshine Center has come in, as well as, oh gosh, it escaped me as soon as I tried to say it. But we have some other community partners who have made themselves available to offer lunch and learns in our high schools, so that we can get children talking about what some of their concerns are and make sure that we get children connected to the right resources. Yes, ma'am.
Well, and I'm really excited about M providing the annual training for certificated personnel. We've been doing that for more than 1 year. That's not new?
No, ma'am, that's not new.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you continue on to section 6.26.
Before you get to can we go back to 6.25.3?
25.3. Yes, ma'am.
In section B, the only thing that I saw that just, when you hear this list of things, usually sexual orientation is in there, and I didn't see that in here.
Okay, it is referenced earlier, but I will make a note of that.
Thank you.
And while we're pausing, this is not really substantive. You know, there have been some wonderful questions. Most of the things I have marked right here are editorial.
Okay.
But I'd like to give a couple.
Please.
When we refer to people, let's say, it's throughout. Students who instead of students that. Let's use who referring to people. I did notice that the Code of Behaviors, I see it's a former document, 2017-18, so there might need to be some consistency. Now we're calling it the Student Conduct Manual.
Yes, ma'am.
I only saw at one time page 16
yes,
as a Code of Behaviors.
Yes, ma'am.
And back to page 20, section B, number 2, if we can say gender instead of sex.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Section 6.26, reporting of IEP is section 504 meetings. We presented this. This is a policy that we added last year and we got board approved, and this explains to all of our stakeholders what the procedures are within our district whenever a parent would like to record any type of IEP meeting or 504 meeting, including giving us notification in advance so that we can be prepared as well, and the procedures that principals should use in order to communicate and respond to families. Section 6.27, parental and family engagement. All of this will sound familiar to all of us. That's around our Title I pieces, that it's really important for us to keep parents and families involved, that we have annual meetings to keep them involved, that we have parents involved on all of our major committees so that they can have input, that we are truly welcoming and championing families as a partner with us.
Who is responsible for the annual evaluation?
For the annual evaluation, which section are you, which letter?
Under 6.27.4.
Is that part of title? You think?
I think it's part of title.
With Ms. O.
I would think.
It just doesn't spell it out.
Okay, Ms. Gillis?
Okay, we do have, a parent, community and parent engagement phase, family community engagement, and Lisa Dotson is actually over that portion.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to spell it out, but it's, because it doesn't say who's responsible for it.
Okay. So add face, Ms. Gillis?
Okay,
Okay, we will.
Okay, so let's me make sure, I would say it's designated by position and not by name.
That's
Is
fine.
that what you're saying?
Yeah, it says that there's the policy, but it doesn't say what department is responsible for it.
Yes, ma'am. And the last section for students, section 6.28, talks about our efforts around student wellness. So this includes that we are going to provide healthy meals for them through our child nutrition program, that we give students the opportunity to participate in physical activity, that we offer education around healthy eating, that as much as possible we are promoting wellness with our students.
I did have a question.
Okay.
Do all the children get PE every day? You know, what is, because that has been some of the calls I've gotten, or elementary kids don't get PE, but once every 9 weeks, or recess, or whatever. What is the?
Well, I know that we had, and I really should, go ahead.
That'll be part of my presentation as well, but yes.
You'll be asking again.
So P is required in all elementary grades.
That what?
P is required to be taken in all
Every
elementary
day?
grades. Yes, every day.
They have, I know they do it at the very elementary.
And at my child's school as well.
I just can't imagine 4th grade boys sitting in a chair all day long.
Mhm.
And so, you know,
And I do, I'm thinking of the teachers.
That was actually one of my questions. I have children in the school district, so I
Yes, ma'am.
kind of have a bird's eye view of that one. We may need to monitor that, because that's something that's not happening.
Okay, I'll make a note if you will as well about the,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell. I'm sure Jenna has a question.
No, right, exactly, yes.
While he's coming up, I want to introduce our city councilman, Audrey Graham, because she might be leaving for District 4. She's here tonight, and we have encouraged her to come to the meeting, and especially from this one right here. So, Ms. Graham, we're so happy to have you here with us tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Graham wanted to know, could she ask a question?
Come on, get him.
Can I?
Ms. Green, what would you like to know?
I wanted to find out what was the definition of what do we define homelessness, because I heard that mentioned. And what's the rate in Montgomery County? Do we actually have a statistical rate on homelessness in our school? And Ms. Williamson spoke of the coordinator. Is that per school or either for the full district? We just have one homeless coordinator.
There's one homeless coordinator for the district.
Just for the district.
I'm sorry. No, that's it.
And do we have an actual definition of what we define homelessness as?
Yes, ma'am. It was included in the definition that you see here is the federal definition for homeless.
So it's in your manual? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But do we know the rate in our school system?
I'm sure our homeless coordinator can pull that, and through Title I, there are some reporting pieces that go along with that. So we can add Dr. Moore's urgency and get that for you.
Okay. We'll get it. Thank you. That was it.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Moore. 7.1 curriculum under section 7, instructional program. And I'm reading this right now, and then I need to verify. Required courses in elementary are reading, spelling, writing, arithmetic, all in written English, geography, history of the United States and Alabama, elementary science, health education, physical education, and other studies as prescribed by the State Board of Education. So I will look deeper into that to make sure. And in secondary, we want to make sure that the 4 years that's required in the subject of English, social studies, science, and math are an equivalent course. Section 7.1. Any question with curriculum?
And I don't know if my question is going to fit. When we talk about the courses, I'm gonna talk about advanced courses and honors courses. Are we ensuring that in all of our schools, those higher courses are being offered, especially in our high schools, and I don't even mention to say middle schools, that those courses, if we have them in magnet as well as in our traditional schools?
In fact, we had a grade span meeting with high school, and we're ensuring that all EP courses are taught in every school with the weight being exactly the same, whether traditional or whether it's magnet.
Okay, and the honors classes as well?
Honors classes as well. For AP classes, honors will be a 1.0 moving forward next year.
And the reason I asked that was I watched the state school board work session, and that was kind of like one of their priorities on getting children exposed to those classes, because it connects to the ACT and making sure that they're taking the classes that are going to prepare them to take the ACT.
Exactly. Exposure is the key. That's going to ensure that all our students get an opportunity.
And my other question, because we do have impact. And I don't know if this can be done, but do we have courses that are outside of the English, social studies, science, and math, but courses that are aligned to their career interests? Maybe if they take something as an extracurricular, I don't know how that would look, but is there something, that we offer that kind of caters towards that a little bit? It was just a thought that I had. If we did, maybe we could get more kids interested in it, but.
I'm talking to 2 high schools this week. The hope is that we can eventually be able to every student graduates with a major. So they have a concentrated effort. So when they graduate from Lanier or whatever school, they'll have a degree, concentrated area like engineering or whatever, to support their learning.
That's awesome.
But that's not happening yet. That's what we're proposing to move forward. And if I can, the high schools all agree across the board that if we can get them with a concentrated area of focus, then they can see why math is important, or English is important, whatever it is that they're working on. That way they can get back to the focus of why English is important.
And that one also, I think, would help with our graduation rate. I know we're at whatever percent, but to increase those, increase the numbers of kids graduating from our high school. And I know that was something that was brought up during intervention, so that's why I mentioned.
Even to speak more to the equivalent courses in English and math, because if I was focused on a certain area, like health science or whatever, that is an opportunity to get that additional content area support in science or math or whatever it is that would help the child to graduate. But that's moving forward. Any other questions in curriculum? 7.2 is textbooks. We want to ensure that textbooks are purchased and distributed according to the State Department of Education regulations. Only textbooks recommended by the local textbook committee and approved by the board after being recommended by the superintendent can be adopted. Yes.
I just wanted to point this out because this was a contentious little subject that we had last year. And when you look at the budget, we're spending $70, per kid, per textbook. No, per kid for all textbooks. And it was brought to my attention that we're starting at the kindergarten level, and when you talk to these high school teachers, even middle school teachers, and they're going, where are our science books, where are our history books, that we're spending money on consumables, okay, which, and to me, that needs to be brought to our attention because those books cannot be reused. And when you've got, somebody just for 1 year, I think it needs to be brought to their attention because you've got these kids that need textbooks, and it's never getting to the higher levels, and there's got to be an answer for that.
Yeah, so yes, some of that consumable piece actually came to my attention as something that was being done at the high school. So you kind of look for a consumable at the lower grade periodically. But you're right. So we did deal with that, we're dealing with that. That was adopted prior to, several years ago. I think it was a science book and it was a consumable book. So yes, it does have to be replenished every year. However, we're gonna pay more attention, better attention to the textbook adoption and the process that we use for adopting books, and that before we bring it to the board for approval, that some of us will have looked at it to make sure that it meets our needs, both from the academic perspective and also from the financial perspective, and that it's not something that we have to replenish every year and upgrade, because that is not really a cost-saving factor, and textbooks are not funded at the level that they need to be from the state, so we have to take local money sometimes to kick in to finish it. Mr. Watts has released some money this year to buy some additional books, and so we still may not be exactly where we need to be or want to be, but we're better at what we've done with our textbooks, I think. And so that is a process so that we have to watch, so that when we have textbook committees, they have some guidelines, they choose books that are going to be really great, and then we can adopt them or bring them to you for adoption. But we vet it to make sure, does it meet the standard that we need for it to be even financial, so that we don't have to repeat buying of a consumable in the upper grades.
Okay, but, yeah, again, what I'm asking, you know, and you may not know the answer, when was the last time high school got any new textbook? And if not, if you don't know that, when will they? Can I tell them, hey, you're going to get them at something?
This year, we supplied every content area except for math textbooks. We did not do mathematics because math adopted next year, and it's going to be a new course of study. And the dollars ran out, Mr. Watts. So at some point, we did not supply the area of mathematics. We supported which we could with Khan Academy and other support resources this year. Math will be adopted next year, and math is going to be, it's going to be extensive adoption with math because of a new course of study as well.
So I can say all textbooks except math.
Exactly.
When they say, where are they? You got them.
At the point where we gave them a deadline to identify who needed textbook purchase, we received it after the fact from some schools, and we did ensure that in the areas of English, language arts, and science, we sent it out maybe in October, and we waited till December to get everyone requests fulfilled. We did receive something like 2 weeks ago, and there's no funds available to support it, but we are supporting it where it may be a classroom set this year.
But they were given a deadline. If they meets the deadline, it's somebody that broke the chain right up there.
Exactly. Okay. And they were reminded 3 or 4 times of the deadline.
Super.
One last thing about textbooks, the distribution of textbooks going home, just to kind of, for the record kind of thing, we will allow the textbooks, allow students to take textbooks home, or are we going to get something online? You know, will it be an option? You can either get a textbook, take it home, or parents may say, I may not need the textbook, I'm good, we're just using the online resources. But overall, will all students be able to take textbooks home?
Moving forward, yes. Now, keep in mind that for 3 or 4 years, we did not purchase textbooks in MPS, so we were playing catch up this year because of that. We did not have the ability to get all content areas with a textbook to take home. So we're supporting all the language arts and science and social that we could. For math, they could not take a math textbook home because we did not have funds to support all content areas this year.
Well, I want to say I do appreciate what you all are doing. It's a great start. I'm really excited about what's to come and what's even happening now.
Any other questions with textbooks? 7.3 Instructional Material Centers. We want to make sure that every employee has the ability to check out or be supported by resources in the media center. As we move forward with Renaissance and anything of that nature, we want to make sure if a teacher or a principal wants to check out resources, we can support them there as well.
I did that. Now, this is for my librarians. How much do we get, I guess, allocated from the state for libraries? I can't remember. I remember a chart we got, but I can't remember the percentage. Do you know?
I cannot remember, but
there's a very small amount for library enhancement that we get a certain amount per teacher. And I want to say it's about $60 per teacher for library enhancement. And of course, what they do, the teacher body votes on how they plan to expend those funds, and then those funds are expended based on how that budget committee and the teacher body determine.
At each school.
At each school, that's correct.
Thank you.
7.4, academic standards. Standards for promotion shall also be established for grades K-12, and such standards shall be revised as necessary. The procedures and standards shall be published and made available annually in the grading, promotion, and retention procedural handbook, we also refer as the GPR. We know that 9 minor, 4 major. The minors include classwork, quizzes, checklists, observations, homework. The major includes chapter tests, unit tests, and projects. It could be extended beyond that. We evaluated, but those are the basic forms of tests that are on the minor and major.
And just kind of, and I'm probably not as bad as Janet just joined the club. But our grading, how we grade, and I'm just, another kind of just put it out there. We need to make sure that they're matching our standards, whether it's all those things you listed should be standard based, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. You might want to monitor that too.
Okay. The requirement is that moving forward, that we want to make sure that every assignment is attached to a standard. So if we're reviewing or we want to evaluate whether they will learn the standard or not, we refer back to the assignment.
Okay, I've got, this is my last question, as I read thoroughly through this. On 7.4.3 credit recovery, which is why I asked the gentleman that was talking a little while ago about that. I looked that up where it says reference Alabama Administration 293.102, printed it, okay? And it doesn't say anything about the, the stipulations, okay? And what I'm talking about is, my understanding is a child has to have a minimum of 40 to even be in that program, okay? I'm not gonna mention schools, I'll send you an email on this, but I've talked to 2 teachers that are afraid and said, Lisa, please do not use names. But even they pulled up their grades for me. I worked with them at South, okay, that's how I know they're adjuncts. And they said these people have like 3 averages and 6 averages. It's the same school, and these kids are supposedly in credit recovery, and they're their students. This is not hearsay. I've seen it. I'll send you the email on it. Call me out the teacher's name just because I want you to know where it's at. But if that's, I want to get a copy because this doesn't show me. I know it's 40. The gentleman earlier said only 2 classes. I would just like to see what the stipulations are.
It's in the GPR, and the state requires that. It must be at least a 40 to recover. Now, if they're taking the entire class over again from the initial point, then the 40 is not required. But if they're trying to recover the credit, then a 40 is required.
I'll say that again.
If they were taking the class over again, like the next semester or the next year, then it's not required. Exactly. Exactly. Or if they're doing ingenuity, if they're starting the course from the very beginning, but they're not recovering that way. But if this deemed as recovery, a 40 is required. And I was going to reference 7.4.3, which is great there, and then 7.4.2 is report cards. Procedures should be developed to provide for parental awareness of student progress, and such procedures shall be distributed and updated as necessary. Any other question with 7.4? 7.5, remedial instruction. Procedure for remedial instruction shall be developed to meet the needs of all pupils who fail to acquire designated knowledge and skills. By having the ability to assign assignments by standards, we can make it with remediating students in that regard.
And that is by using several strategies, but specifically that's what RTI will be a part of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed, yes. And we want to make sure that if we were evaluating learning in all classes, it's all evaluated by the learning of the standard identified with each quiz, each test, each homework assignment.
And I think you and I talked, I said, so about that particular one, so it's like every kid for the most part has an IEP.
7.6 testing. Any questions there? That is centered around standardized testing, and we know that we must follow the state guidelines for ensuring that we're following the mandate of the state. 7.7, dual enrollment. Is whereby high school students may enroll in post-secondary institution in order to dually earn credits for diploma degree at both the high school and post-secondary levels. One of the goals is to ensure that we have some people graduating from high school with both an associate and a high school diploma. That's one of our goals. As part of CCR, it would be great to know that a student that graduated from high school also have a certification in electronics or speed language. Any questions with 7.7?
One quick question, about roughly what percentage of our kids are graduating with that dual, and with those credentials, where you graduate from high school with your diploma, high school diploma, as well as your associate degree or some type of credential?
Today I don't know, but we're evaluating that because even in recording effectively, we're making sure that we're ensuring that with the support of Impact and all high schools, that we're getting every recording of the credentialing, the dual enrollment completely accurate.
We're in our first full year of that anyway, aren't we?
Madam Chairperson, I want to just share with you too, that that's part of the accountability piece that we found some weaknesses in. And so as we're doing our mid-year reviews, we're going through and ensuring that we are properly documenting, recording, and tracking all of these things. So we'll have some up-to-date data to share with the board very soon. Madam Chair.
One thing I want to reiterate the fact that transportation is responsibility of the parent or guardian of the student unless otherwise assumed by the LEA. If we can, we want to assume it, but for the most part, the transportation is the responsibility of the student or the parent. 7.8, correspondence of online courses.
Wait a second. How are our students informed of the dual enrollments? I mean, do schools go visit them, or how do kids know about the dual enrollment?
Okay, at every high school, the guidance counselor and the principal introduce every student to the opportunity of dual enrollment.
And can I add, because my son graduated last year, it was on his choice form if he wanted to take it. So that was another way students could determine if they wanted to do that.
As part of the initial 4-year plan, I'm sorry, as part of the initial 4-year plan, we want to ensure that all the opportunities to graduate with certain diploma options is available for every student as they transition from middle school to high.
So you have dual enrollment can be at the community college level, or it could be the UA early college, or at one of the major 4-year universities. We're trying to expand those partnerships with all of those places around us to meet the needs and individualize what we can offer for our students. Madam Chair.
7.9, virtual school options. Under 7.9.1, scope and delivery of services, Montgomery County Board of Education provides a virtual pathway for grades 9 to 12 that includes all courses needed to obtain a high school diploma.
And my question on that is why would somebody do virtual high school as opposed to going to a high school?
Many times, the case a student may be ill for a period of time or may have an opportunity to not take a course in the traditional high school and it's offered online through virtual, then they may take that opportunity to do such.
Can they do both virtual and in school?
Indeed, yes.
So,
actually, I was certified in access learning, and I taught the physics class because they didn't have a physics teacher at the school where I was working, and they were able to do that online.
And so, matter of fact, some of our students really prefer the online instead of being in crowds and groups, and there's a good many that really are using it.
Also, today I had a discussion with Dr. Williamson about, students who may be at the alternative school who may not be able to get all of their electives, and so we're looking at ways to allow them to do some of that virtual, you know, they may be assigned to the alternative school. So trying to be more creative in how we use it, you know, expanding it to some degree. And then also, you might even at some point be able to increase your enrollment by the number of kids who would prefer to take virtual classes as opposed to coming to school and being in a class every day. But they're still counted on your enrollment count.
We want to talk about 7.9.2, the eligibility criteria for virtual schools. A, students must be currently enrolled in MPS. B, they must be a rise in 9th through 12th grader. C, must attend preliminary meetings held by virtual school program staff to provide the guidelines for virtual schools. D, they must maintain appropriate course progression as measured by completion of weekly assignments, quizzes, and tests. We want to ensure that if they're in virtual schools, we're supporting that student as well. We don't want to leave them on an island by themselves. We want to support them. Because many times the class is often more difficult, and we let them not be supported, then success rate does not exist. Any questions on section 7.9.2? I will skip to 7.9.4, attendance. All full-time students enrolled in the virtual school program will be counted in average daily membership at their zone school. So at their zone school. That completes section 7.9. 7.10, career and technical education program. This is very important, as you mentioned earlier. If they can see the purpose and the reason behind learning, and career tech plays a major role to our impact. So 7.10.1, work-based learning experiences, making sure that during the day, an experience provides students with education opportunities in a work setting that typically cannot be obtained in a classroom. Any question with 7.10.1?
Is this is going on right now?
It is going on
The
now.
co-op and internships, okay. Do you know how many students are involved in this?
I do not know the number. I can check tomorrow. And
I was
verify.
just curious, because I've been asked about this too. I didn't realize that this is an option for kids to do.
I will check and verify the numbers.
I did have one question.
You go, Erica.
I told you we had this
I know,
together. As far as expanding the career tech, I know I've heard from even teachers that they like to see, they may have children who may struggle academically, but they like for them to be, they feel that they would be really good in having that exposure or that opportunity to be a part of the career tech program. Is there, and I know right now it almost looks like a magnet school, I'll be honest. Is there some way that we can, or maybe we can consider as a board, with the, as you all collaborate amongst yourselves, but really consider revisiting that and opening it up to more students? I know when I first got on the board, it was a good number, but it was small, and I'm happy to see that it is growing, but I think it could be an even bigger program and really serve our students a lot better, especially since we're giving them the opportunity to kind of go out and do internships and whatnot with different businesses in the community.
That's a conversation we're having with our grade fan meeting. Matter of fact, we began having grade fan meetings in the high schools to have that conversation. And all the high schools are saying that, how can we ensure that back in our home school, at their base, as well as impact, to provide an opportunity. So we're working on that conversation now.
And when we look at behavior, I mean, I don't know if we should, I just think maybe we could, come up with a plan to kind of, after a while, kind of, mainstream them over into it even if, because I know behavior was a piece, and I'm like, well, what if they're interested in this, and that could kind of curb some of that possibly. And I just think it's kind of something worth looking into.
Exactly. And then we believe that as well, that they see the purpose behind, again, while I'm in school, you know, and with the hope eventually everyone graduates with a major from high school, then it'll ensure that different crime will decrease as well as the attendance rate will increase.
Is there such a thing, there used to be back in the day, a thing called DECA, Distributive Education. It was not on the scope of impact, but it was where high school students had jobs in the community for part of the day. Does that still exist?
Not at the rate that it did back then with DECA, but having those work-based learning opportunities is what replaced that.
How do businesses find out about getting involved with the co-op and internships?
And that's where Ms. Bob, you know, who's our director of career tech, we have like advisory committees, and that conversation is this with meetings that we have through task force, and having that conversation with community partnerships.
And I say, I see Ms. Sharon Rose out there in the audience. I know you have a good partnership with them as well in addressing that.
Sure. You want me?
I mean, you can.
Yeah. We certainly encourage the partnerships with businesses. Each of the majors have advisory councils, if you will, to assist with developing curriculum so that they identify what the current needs and future needs of businesses are, which also turn into the internships, the cooperatives, and the opportunity for apprenticeship programs as well. In fact, they just did an apprenticeship program with the state meeting this afternoon.
Yeah, and back when they had DECA, they would take their core courses in the morning, and they would go out to the businesses, or they took their core courses in the afternoon and went out to the businesses. And it was like internship for them, and when they graduated, they had jobs with those companies. So that's something that we could look into.
And we also, and I know in Mobile they have, because Signature Academies is what they call it, but bringing some of those career tech opportunities into schools as well. I know Impact presently can only do so much, but if we can look at infusing some of those things in our school. I know that there are a few things, but just seeing what else we can add.
This morning at the media review as a year, they were doing that before, and this year they stopped doing it. And we asked why did it discontinue if it was working so well. So we had that conversation. And the goal is for every high school to reconsider having those programs in their school as well, whatever is allowable within the framework of MPS. 7.11, foreign exchange program. Here's an opportunity where we have students who may venture to a foreign country, and students come from foreign country and venture into our system. There's a proposal on the table for about 15 students from LAMP to go over next year to Germany, and for students from Germany to come over here. We have introduced that as a possibility. We sent an email and we had an initial conversation. All expenses will be incurred by the individual students, not the system. The hope is that, the expectation is that if going to Germany, they will stay with the family in Germany, and coming over here, the German students will stay with the students over here. So we'll provide further information as to that, you know, as it happens, if that conversation is possible. Any question on 7.11? And the last one, we only had 12. 7.12, graduation. In order to obtain an Alabama High School diploma, students must earn the credits mandated by the applicable Alabama Administrative Code requirements and meet any other requirements mandated by the applicable grading, promotion, and retention procedure handbook, state law, and Alabama Department of Education. We added one thing to it. It was supported by the lawyer. It supported 7.12. Students may complete required coursework early from Montgomery Public Schools by meeting all requirements for an Alabama High School diploma as described in Alabama Administrative Code. Graduation is official, but they cannot officially receive it to the end of the school year. So if they finish in December with all their credit, they can get a certificate of completion may attend college already in January, or they're going to the military, but the official diploma will not occur to the end of the year. Any questions with 7.12?
Well, if they completed all the requirements, why would you not give it to, if they completed their requirements in December, they may be going somewhere to get a job, they might just be going from school to work. But if you're talking about awarding them their diploma at the end of the regular school year, why would you want to do that?
What's happened in the past is that they receive like an official letter that says, I have fulfilled all requirements. It will allow them to begin college, the military, or start a job. But the official diploma was not given to the end of the year. If we had a ceremony, or we wanted that to be a possibility, we can change that, but currently, that's the way it was happening. We'll make note of that.
So do we have a large number of students who actually do that at the end of a semester, or do we have a few?
We have, the number I don't know, but I know the possibility because we have block scheduling where we were. So to have 24 units, if you were getting 8 a year, we did not let them graduate at the end of 3 years. It was possible that if you had 8 credits your freshman year, sophomore, and junior year, you can graduate in 3 years. The earliest they could graduate is at the midterm of their senior year, because we did not want to take the ADM possibility away, but they can graduate after 3 years. But now I can find the number, but we were only providing them a certificate of completion.
Right, so you give them a record that they completed all of their requirements, so they can go enroll in college or anywhere else, but the official diploma. I'm thinking it may be something also to do with the way we order diplomas and badges for that particular year, as opposed to 1 or 2 at a time. We order them for the whole class, so to speak.
Well, I just knew of a couple of situations where 2 students completed their work. They completed it before December, but they had to wait until, not so much about the graduation, I mean the ceremony itself, they could, some of them could care less about that. They just want the diploma. And if they have completed the work, and that to me is official, you know, that's just something to think about. Because you are having more students now, because some of them have to take additional classes, but they don't need enough to have to keep them there. They from January to May, is what I'm saying.
Is it possible to earn your core courses before your senior year?
It is possible.
Yeah,
Yes.
To get your core content? I didn't think so.
With the expectation of trying to graduate at the end of their senior year at the midterm, then they would take courses maybe possibly in the junior year that's already a senior course.
See, a lot of them have taken their core courses and they may have failed, but they can do the remediation. I mean, they can repeat that class.
Okay. I just did not know we did that. I've worked on block scheduling, and you can't take generally your senior courses until your senior year, and that would level out the possibility of someone graduating as a junior.
And we talk about dual enrollment and other opportunities with virtual schools. Those are ways that it's possible that it could happen.
It's tainted. We have a little girl, I'm not gonna call her name or anything, I can't probably pronounce it if I wanted to, but she's a middle schooler.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And she's obviously very bright, and she's gonna take all of the AP exams. Her parents want her to do it, they feel like she can do it, and so.
Yes.
I want her name. If she does it, I think we'll make a big deal out of it when it happens.
And for the most part, to make reference to, for the most part, most of our students are only taking 5 exams, AP exams. She wants to take 10 as an 8th grade student. And she said, I'm more than ready. Please do not deny me this opportunity. So we're excited to see that.
You know, I'm excited with Madam President of all the options. Like, it's just, I'm just so excited. I want to say anything else. I'm just excited about the options.
There's a lot out there, there's a lot going on. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you all.
Dr. Moore.
Okay, last but not least, and just very quickly, I wanna say again, to reiterate what you just said, that there's a lot going on. We have a lot of things that we know that we need to address, and we are very rapidly trying to address them, and it's just so many things. And we're trying to get processes in place to deal with some of the things that we know would benefit our students. And that, you know, maybe we've had a little bit of a lag where we haven't had all of those processes nailed down. We're trying to every day nail those things down so that we can do what we need to do for our students. So over time, I would say, within the next year, school year, the rest of this year's school year, next year, you'll be able to see, I hope, a lot of different things going on, and that we will have not only started, but have finished in order to get those things in place. So that's what we're all gearing up for. The staff is working really hard to do a lot of things. They're very good at supporting any crazy idea I might have, any crazy idea they may have. So we just keep trying, you know, because that's what we understand that's what we're all about. So we're working really hard. So if we say sometimes we're having that conversation, it's more than just a conversation. It's sort of working it out. That's part of the conversation, starting it and then figuring out what we're gonna do. And at some point in some of these reports, you'll start to hear, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And so over time, hopefully, you'll see a lot more of the creative pieces coming out for our system. And just one little word, we're working on charter. We're trying to finish up and get the contract where we can all agree on it. So hopefully within the next few days, we'll be at a point where we will have something that we can present to the board as an agreeable charter contract. That's all I have.
Okay, moving forward, that's what we're doing, we're moving forward. Our next, regular meeting is Tuesday, February 26th at 5 o'clock. And do we need a motion to adjourn?
Madam President, I move that we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor? Ladies, we are adjourned and gentlemen. Thank you.
I don't know if our president wants you all to know that, but I'm telling you anyway, she's going to be on Kevin Elkins' show in the morning.
We'll be sure to call.
I'm Mark's chair.